Hello and welcome to my second devlog. This is just sort of a update on how everything's going so far. All of the new features I've added, all of the new kind of HUDs and graphics and all of that. This will be a lot shorter than the first one because obviously the first one was showing everything I've made. This is just the changes. Obviously, first thing, new title screen. This is temporary. I want to emphasize that, temporary. But I just wanted it to be different than the default asset you get given. So it's now different. So let's go into a new game. And straight away, there's a lot of new things here. First off, we have 24 max points to start off with instead of 30. That's a small change I've made. We can see we are now level 1 in the top left instead of in the bottom left. I feel like it's a better place to have the information here, as well as the gold we currently have. We've got sets 1 to 5. These are our equipment sets, and you can swap between them at any time and rename them as well. I'll show that later on. And along the bottom here, we now have 3 buttons. You can just tap these if you're on mobile, or literally click them if you're on PC, and it will take you to the respective menu. There we are. And skill tree takes you to the skill tree, and clicking it takes you back out. Menu lets you get to all of the settings that aren't going to be on the screen, so things like restarting a loop, which is now an option as well. Options for your audio balancing. And yeah, obviously saving. Debug, that won't be in the final game. But yeah, just general kind of settings there. And also, again, equipment sets if you want to change it here or rename them. So let's say I want to rename equipment set 1 to just be XP, for example, because that will be a very common set you'll be having. And you can now see it's actually changed it in my buttons up here. One thing with like Inflation RPG, for example, is even if you changed your sets, it would still just say set 1, set 2, set 3 on the top. So you'd have to kind of memorize them. But at least this way, you can sort of name your sets and then very easily be able to tell, what set you're currently using. And obviously you can see whichever one you're using is highlighted slightly with a little transition between them. So yeah, there's that feature. Like I say, equipment, I've now got critical multiplier damage and evasion as a % there. Evasion, this will probably change because I've got sort of a new mechanic and I'll replace this, but I've got these 2 extra stats which can be influenced by your equipment. Critical multiplier does very similar things to agility. Agility increases your critical damage, and then this multiplies that total. So you still want to buff your agility mainly, and then obviously your critical multiplier will multiply with that. You have just 2 ways to buff your crits, basically. It'll be more obvious later on, I think, how that works. One other feature I've added is achievements. I have literally got an achievement for taking 1 step, and you can see your achievements here. So you can see we've got a few achievements that we haven't earned yet, but we do have the first step. You get that just for taking 1 step in the game. So there's that. If we go into combat, I don't think too much has changed. Some extra elements have been added. So we've now got an attack counter. We've got the actual name of the enemy, health. I think that's everything that's changed. Some new attack sounds temporarily. I will be making them myself, but someone commented on the last video that they were very loud, and they were. So they're a little bit more pleasing to the ears now. There we are. Obviously 2 new enemies as well, just in terms of graphics. I've added some more later on as well. And another feature, which I've just remembered, because I've just seen it there, is the shop. So if we go in here, every major map will have one of these, and these shops will all have different items. And you can literally go up and buy whatever you like. And I've also made my own custom music for this place, which I'll quickly blast. So that is one other thing I've been busy with. With the shop, you have a limited amount of purchases. If you have 3 of an accessory, I've mentioned this before, you cannot get more of that accessory. So if I have 2 health gems, I can only buy 1 health gem from the store. I wanted to add this as a way to essentially get items if your luck is really bad. If you just don't get any drops from a run, then at least you can buy something with your gold at the end of it. And you can see we've also got an offense novel here for 10,000 gold, which you can normally achieve in the first run if you do well. So yeah, this is the first store. I might add more items to this as things progress. I might even remove some. Obviously, the gold is how I currently think it should be balanced, but that may change in the future. There we go. So that's the store. Cool, let's fight this level 8 enemy. Nice. Now, I have added some other things, but I haven't actually implemented them into the game yet. But I've added quite a few new accessories, new weapons, some of which are accessible, to be fair. I've also updated the code for a lot of enemies. Ah, the one. There we go. This is a item movement testing. So, another feature in this game is time. Just time. You have morning, afternoon, and evening. And you have certain equipment that can actually buff you based on what time of day it is. So, for example, the worm is an accessory that gives you extra stats in the morning. So, if we equip that and then fight a little bit. So, you can see it basically increased all of our stats fairly significantly. There we go. We've got an extra few hours. But if I were to go and lose a couple of fights deliberately, there we go. And you should see after this fight, the time of day will change. There we go. So now we can see that it's a little bit more orange. We've kind of got a little bit of a sun effect on the top left. And I will have an extra HUD element that tells you what time of day it is in case you're indoors or something. But once you're about 33% of the way through your max energy, it will become afternoon. And because it's afternoon, the worm now has no effect. If we go to remove it and equip it, you can see our stats do not change. That's because the worm only gives us these bonus stats in the morning. So that's another cool little feature I've added. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to show. I think that covers most of it. Obviously, there are more things I've added, but I don't want to spoil things. I'm only showing things that I think are core to the game, that are universal, as opposed to like, oh, look at this new item I've made. I want to keep those kind of surprised for when you actually play the game. So that is going to be it for today's devlog. Like I say, it was going to be a short one because there wasn't as much to show compared to last week. But yeah, that is everything. So if you've got any questions about anything, or if you have any feedback on any of this, feel free to leave a comment, and I will check it out. I'll read every comment. I will kind of respond as much as I can, and I will kind of seriously look into any sort of feedback whatsoever, even if it's completely ridiculous, or even if it's something that sounds completely impossible. I'll still try and give it a go. So that's it. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the amount of support I've got so far. It's been brilliant, and hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll have something more to show you. See you.